Hello and welcome to another episode of DCU Daily. We are back. We are a little behind schedule today, but that's okay. I just got tied up with some tech issues, but we figured them out just in time, and we are here to talk about a bunch of different things. We got to talk about Superman. There's a new trailer that everybody's been waiting for, and we might have some idea now, finally, as to when we're gonna get that trailer. We also have to talk about, of course, Sergeant Rock, a character that a lot of you probably heard a lot about in the last 24 to 48 hours. But before that, most people probably had no idea who the character was. Of course, if you're a hardcore fan of DC, then you probably knew. But we're going to get into that because Daniel Craig might be going from being 007 to being Sergeant Rock. And, his latest director who worked with him on the movie Queer, that's still upcoming and has been going to the festival circuit, Luca Guadagnino, he is going to be the director apparently, but no deals have been signed. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about it in a lot of detail. Of course, we also have to then discuss James Gunn and continuing to answer fan questions. And he was asked about Deathstroke. Of course, there was that Bane times Deathstroke movie that Deadline and a bunch of other trades reported about not too long ago. And it looks like there might be some truth to that because James Gunn is talking about it, so we'll get into that. And of course, beyond that, we have so much more as always to talk about it. And I've got John with me. How are you doing today, John?
I'm doing absolutely 100% A-okay.
We could just freeze frame that. That's a great freeze frame.
Yeah.
I love it. Love it. Well, with that in mind, John, let's dive into it, right? So the first topic of the day is the Superman trailer. The Superman trailer is something that James Gunn has been carrying on his hard drive, it seems like, for weeks. He is showing, little sneak peeks. He's like, all right, okay, Frank, here you go. Not gonna see the rest of that. You got your 5 seconds. You're gonna have to wait. It's just that it seems like he's walking around and flashing people with the trailer. But like, hey, we want the whole thing, and it looks like we finally might have a clue as to when we're gonna get that, because there was an article in Collider that called it an exclusive. I'm still not 100% sure about this, but Collider is one of the big outlets, and they usually get things right. They do their research, and of course, as you see on the screen here, it looks like the Superman trailer is going to be attached to Mufasa, the Lion King, which is like the live-action prequel to the live-action Lion King. So if you were a big fan of the live-action, aka CGI Lion King, then you can go back and watch.
Does that mean I have to fucking buy a ticket to this fucking shithouse movie, and then like go see the trailer and then fucking hightail it out? And plus, why would they do it in front of a Disney movie? Wouldn't it make more sense to do it in front of a Warner Brothers movie?
So it's mid-December, right? Like it says it right there. That movie's coming out basically around Christmas time. So it's a time of the year when a lot of families are going to watch.
Why not put it in front of Sonic then? They're both fast guys that wear blue, so like it works. Like, why would you put it? Nobody's fucking seen that shitty ass fucking Mufasa movie. Like, why are they putting it in front of there? That makes no sense. Get the fuck out of here with that shit.
Like I said, I think it's because it's a big movie. It's a 4-quadrant film. It means it's gonna draw a big audience. Look, the Lion King from a few years ago was, up until this year when Inside Out 2 took over the top spot, it was the highest grossing quote unquote and animated movie. I mean, they like to make you believe it's live action, but it was actually animated. It was the highest grossing animated movie. It made like a $1.6 billion. So this sequel is probably gonna make close to $1 billion. So if you're gonna stick your trailer behind that,
I think people are getting sick of the Disney remakes. I mean, Little Mermaid barely broke even. Nobody wants this movie. It's up against Sonic, which has done very well for
however much money it makes or doesn't make. The fact of the matter is, around Christmas time, a lot of people go to the movies, and there are going to be a lot of big movies out this year. It seems like this is a big time of the year for franchise films. So with that in mind, I think we are definitely going to have a situation where James Gunn and I will explain it. Okay, you know what? Sidebar. So fuck the pen. You know why? Because justice for Wick. That's why. Because he got just done dirty. I mean, like, there was no reason. You could have saved the kid. You could have saved the kid. And John is just getting me back triggered again. I'm gonna get back to the Superman conversation because we will talk about the Penguin later in the show. It seems to come up all the time. And Jay Kelly is saying, Mufasa is a potential $1 billion film. I think so. It's not guaranteed. I mean, it has to be good. Like if it sucks, then of course nobody's not gonna make that kind of money. But I do believe that it has a pretty good chance, especially if people love it and they go see it again and again and again. By the way, guys, hit that like button. We know you're here, you're watching. We see a lot more of you watching than we see the number on the like button. So hit that like button. It really helps us out. But John, let's get into the article itself. This was just the post about it, but this is the Collider article, and here's where they kind of give their reasoning. Now, I will say before we get into even that part of it, it wouldn't be the first time that a big studio, like a Warner Brothers, puts their big movie trailer behind a different studio's movie. So it's not like it's one of those things where like, why wouldn't you put it behind a Warner Brothers movie? I mean, like, they already had their Dune released this year, and that would have been way too early. They were still not even done filming. Speaking of which, actually, like, Fantastic Four, I believe, is finishing filming this week. But
is there any Warner Brothers movies coming out soon?
There is that animated Lord of the Rings movie, but I really don't think that's a good opportunity because like it's not gonna make a ton of money. Not a lot of people are gonna go see it. I think Warner Brothers looked at this,
Lord of the Rings,
and more so DC Studios. Right, but like DC Studios, James Gunn, he probably went to David Zaslav. He's like, all right, man, I got this trailer on my hard drive. He flashed him with it. He's like, oh, this is great. I want to see the rest. And then James was like, well, that's what I'm here to talk about. Where can we put this out? What do you think? What do you think, David? Do you think it's a good idea to put it out in December? Do you think it's a good idea to put it on in January? Should we wait till the Super Bowl? It just became a question of, they don't want to sit on this for too long, because I get it. Like, this is the reason why Marvel puts out like a first trailer, which may be more of a teaser, as early as maybe 6 to 8 months out in advance, because you want to keep that hype machine going. It's like it's a angry monster that constantly needs to be fed, aka us. So they need to put something out at this point, and it looks like maybe a teaser trailer would be a perfect opportunity, and then the full trailer, which really gives us a proper first look at the story, all the characters, that could be something they could say for the Super Bowl. So I think to me it makes sense. Looking at this article, let me just read this here. Gunn has teased that it won't be long before we get footage of David Cornsweet in action, and now Collider can exclusively report that the trailer is tentatively expected to arrive online around mid-December. We are also hearing that it's scheduled to appear in theaters with Disney's Mufasa: The Lion King, though nothing is set in stone. So I guess James Gunn could still put the trailer back in his pocket and walk away. But as of right now, it looks like that's the most likely time we're gonna see it. Are you guys happy about that? Would you go to the movie just to watch the trailer and then walk out, or would you actually sit through and watch Mufasa? I mean, I personally would give it a shot if I did, but mid-December to me makes sense. The fact that James Gunn is not going to be at CCXP and yet we may still get the trailer, I think it works. You're about 6.5 months, maybe around 7 months away at that point from the movie releasing. So that trailer comes out, and then maybe 2.5 months later, when Super Bowl happens, you have the first full trailer. Now you're basically in overdrive with like the summer of Superman, and then maybe the final trailer, like we were talking about the other day, could be like in May. May or June, and then you're just from there. The movie comes out in early July, and here Bob's your uncle. So Jay Kelly saying they really should have put it in front of Wicked and Gladiator. And then Fiona saying they better show crypto. I do think they're gonna show crypto. I doubt that they won't show crypto.
Yeah, I mean, he might be like an ending hook.
Yeah.
To the trailer, like, oh, you might hear like a bark, or you just hear like something in the background. That would be cool.
Or maybe like laser shooting out of his eyes toward the end of the trailer, or like Superman hears something behind him, like maybe the dog is like on your left, and his dog voice woo woo woo, and then he's like, I don't know what that would look like. I don't know what Ozo sounds like necessarily, but Jay's point. Okay, actually Fiona's got a good point. Like and subscribe, or the penguin will come for you. You guys remember the other day, he came for me like 5 times in one show. It wasn't even funny. Like, every time I was doing one of like these, I was like, fuck the penguin. Something weird would happen, and then I would disappear. I would freeze, or I would just get knocked off. He wants to have been out there cutting some wires. So we definitely could use the likes. But anyway, Jay's making a good point, putting it in front of Wicked or maybe Gladiator 2, do you think that would have been the better move? Because those movies will make a lot of money too.
I mean, it's
you
too
know?
soon though. I think they want to wait until like right at the cusp of the end of the year. Maybe like you got a couple episodes in for Creature Commandos, and then bam, you have you okay, Creature Commandos, that's really good. Bam, here's your
Bam.
Superman trailer.
Yeah.
Bam, there you go. Merry fucking Christmas, you filthy animals. Anyway, or according to Marvel, Merry Christmas, you shit fucks down the street.
That is actually a really good connection. That could be a perfect yeah. Because can you imagine, like, then they start airing that trailer while like Freeform is doing their Home Alone marathon, like, you know, in the Christmas times. All of a sudden, like, Merry Christmas, you filthy animals! Cut to commercial Superman trailer. You know, I would love to see that. Right, dude, saying I will wait until the trailer comes online to see it. I'm not watching Mufasa just to see the trailer. I think there's a lot of people who would do that, but then again, a lot of people will go to the movies, you know, in Christmas time, like we all do. It's a big time for families to go see movies in theaters.
Family.
Exactly. It's a great time of the year for that, and so I can imagine that, you know, you would go to the theater
We
and
don't
then watch the
know.
trailer amongst several
Maybe it'll
others.
be in the trailer. You know, the
I
theme
don't,
song.
you know, okay, so this is a good question. Do you think they will use some kind of special trailer music? Because a lot of trailers these days, they just use music that's not in the movie, it's made just for the trailer. Or do you think it's too good of an opportunity to not let us hear the soundtrack? Because I'll give you two examples recently where they did this. Of course, it's not really a trailer, but they did um, put out some of the music for Fantastic Four. And then, ironically enough, Michael Giacchino did that, and he did the one for the Batman. And I remember when they did the suit reveal for the Batman, they had the music from, you know, the theme from the movie, and it
Yeah.
really gives you a sense of the feel for what this movie's gonna be. And with Superman being like, you know, like a James Bond or a Batman, the music like a Mission Impossible is so iconic, or the Avengers, so you want to know what it's gonna sound like. And I do remember the first trailer for Man of Steel had the Hans Zimmer score, and like some of the flight score, you know, the track and stuff, and it was really 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 cool because
Well,
it really gave you a sense of
the
grandeur.
although
So yeah,
ironically, the teaser trailer for Man of Steel used the Bridges of Khazad-dûm theme from Lord of the Rings, because I remember I just saw the trailer for the movie, and then like I'm like, oh, that's cool, and then, you know, many years later I was rewatching Lord of the Rings. I'm like, why the fuck does that music sound so familiar? And then bam, it was, you know,
yeah.
Superman. So it's like, so I feel like they might use something from the Warner Brothers library, especially for a teaser trailer. I don't think John Murphy even fucking has it yet. I mean, we still got like 6.5 months, 7.5 months till this damn movie comes out. I don't think he even has music yet. So I think I think the teaser trailer is just going to give us like some generic like teaser music, like most teasers do. But the thing that's like, oh, maybe is like, well, James Gunn did it himself. Allegedly, he and the
Right.
editor worked on it himself, so he might have included something there. Maybe something from his temp track, maybe a song. People are hoping for Starman by David Bowie. So obviously we'll have to see. But it's up in the air, but I don't. It's just like, I think it's just too early to have any music right now. Maybe in the full trailer we'll get something, but I don't think we're going to get anything right now.
I mean, it's a good point. But I still want to believe that James Gunn is gonna give us at least like the leitmotif that defines the new Superman track. So like, you know, the pa 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 pa, like some, just a little bit of it. I'm not saying we get like a whole thing, but maybe just a little bit of it I think would be perfect.
Okay.
Um,
Miraculous has a tidbit that I didn't realize. I'm going to throw that up on the screen real quick. But apparently, Gunn said he was playing Murphy's score on set while they were filming, and he had the music before
oh
the
shit.
filming was even started. So, fuck whatever I say, that might be in the trailer. So, if that's the case, I think if Miraculous, if you are correct, make sure to source us and don't just use a trust me
Drop
bro.
a comment.
But
Send us the link. Where did James Gunn talk about it? I feel like I remember this, but I don't know for sure.
yeah,
Like,
because if that's the case, if John Murphy already has the music, then yeah, I think if that's the case, then it would definitely be in the teaser because I feel like he would want to showcase that. Right. The 2016 teaser. What 2016 teaser?
Is he talking about like BVS? I don't know if he's like a super or like what Superman movie. There was no Superman movie in 2016. Well, there was Batman v Superman. So, yeah. Hey, we got
Fiona. We need the David Guetta remix of it. Superman theme house
David
remix.
Guetta.
Jesus Christ, that would be the worst thing ever.
And you're just standing there with your hands up. The Superman is just doing this with. Well, I definitely think that again, it's a good idea for them to do the movie, to have the trailer for the movie come out before Mufasa, because like again, it's Christmas time. It is literally the best time of the year where a lot of families go to the movie theaters, and it's a perfect Magical Sky Wizard is gonna go to the movie theater with his Uncle Bob, and Uncle Bob is family.
I don't have friends. I got family.
And I hope Uncle Bob really enjoys the the trailer alongside you, Magical Sky Wizard. And again, if Fiona chiming in with the family, yeah, it's yeah, a house remix. Okay, I wouldn't mind a house remix, but first we gotta hear the actual theme for there to be a house remix. Can you imagine though, like, Ron saying, "I'm sure it already exists." Maybe that's what James Gunn had playing on set. Maybe that's. Yeah.
Like just.
I can still see that. I can still.
I mean, house.
What was his name? Is it okay? You know what? If they were to do a Superman house or like a David Guetta remix, they need to get Junkie XL, Tom Hulkenberg. They need to bring him in, and then that needs to be the remix that we get to, like the Wonder Woman music. Like, I want that.
Yeah, that.
Yep.
Or you have the what was it? The fucking Justice League, the fucking chanting in the background. Wonder Woman does like, oh. It's just like,
yeah, every time, literally they didn't miss a single moment, and then
it sounded like the Dune soundtrack.
Yeah, it did. That would be awesome. Oh, the Watcher saying seems like he nailed it. Yeah, no, I think you did nail the timing. Mid-December, it makes sense because you're around 7 months, even a little less than 7 months. Because somebody let us know in the chat. I don't know when Mufasa actually comes out. Is it? I think it's like the second 20th. Week of December. Oh, 20. So it's literally the weekend before Christmas. Yeah. So yeah, I think that would be perfect. And then Ron's like, "Watcher, you did indeed watch everything." I mean, the Watcher's watching. So indeed,
who watches the Watcher?
I don't know.
That's
I guess that's the real question. Oh, Hugo's clarifying his comment from earlier, the Suicide Squad trailer.
Oh.
I will say Warner Brothers, despite some of those movies not being the best, the trailers were so good. I just remember the BVS trailer for Comic-Con that set the fans absolutely wild. Because at that point we were thinking, oh, the movie's going to end with the Batman-Superman fight. And they were like, do you bleed? You will. And then, boom, logo. And people went wild in the audience. So... I feel it's like ancient lamentation wailing intensifies. Yep. That's the Snyder cut. That's the Snyder cut. But hey guys, let us know in the chat if you're watching live or if you're watching after we are live. Then let us know in the comments what you think about the news. This is an exclusive from Collider. So Collider isn't saying, oh, we heard from XYZ. They're saying we heard, as in they're not revealing their sources. But they're also kind of throwing in a little bit of a grain of salt.
Or Jeff Snyder, where it's like, I heard from a guy who heard from a guy who heard from a guy who said, trust me, bro.
Exactly. We need that on a shirt. We need like a trust me, bro shirt.
It's gotta specifically say source.
Trust me,
Colin,
bro.
trust me, bro.
Trust me. Yes.
And then that picture of Joe Lamar doing you. He told me.
Yep. I mean, Jace is saying that he heard December 15th is the anniversary of the Christopher Reeve Superman movie. Is that true? Is that when the first Superman movie? You're talking about the OG Superman movie.
Yeah, December 15th would
December
be
15th. Holy shit. Okay, so December 15th. So 78, 2024. What is that? 22 plus 24 is 46.
It's 46.
So it's not really a 50th anniversary or anything like that. You know what though, Jay? That's a good point. If that's what they're timing it to, that could work. But I mean, December 15th is not when Mufasa comes out, so they're gonna get it pretty close to it. We know that the Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, is gonna be streaming on Max starting December 7th. So
Yes.
that's coming up as well. So that would be perfect. Like you can go watch the documentary, and then the trailer drops 2 weeks later for the newest Superman movie. So yeah, I mean the timing could be perfect. And it again, Marvel released the first trailer for Captain America 4 like 2.5 months ago, 3 months ago. The movie doesn't come out till what, like February, so it wouldn't be unheard of. And do you remember the days back in the 2010s when the first trailer would come out almost like 8 months before? Then movie studios started realizing that the hype kind of dies down, so you shouldn't do that. I think
Because
the
that's
lesson
exactly what happened to the Fall Guy.
exactly.
Although, to be fair, it did get delayed. It was supposed to come out in March, and then it got pushed to May. So that's not totally their fault, but even then, guys, come on. We were this close to greatness.
I will say though, I think the lesson they learned was probably like again they learned studios often learn the wrong lessons in the sense that if you
Always.
release a trailer 8 months ahead for a movie like Superman, because I think the closest comparison to this, because here's the thing, I've seen a lot of people compare Superman's potential at the box office and how it's going to be received to the DCEU. But here's the thing. I think the audiences have proven to us that they know the difference between a DCEU film, because we got 4 of them last year, and a movie that is not part of the DCEU, aka Superman is part of the DCU, and then the Joker movies, both the first and the second. I know the second one sucked ass, but the first one, and of course the Batman, were they're not connected to the DCU, and those movies between them made like almost $8 billion. The Batman and Joker, whereas last year, if you combine all 4 DCEU movies, they didn't even get close to that number. So I want to compare this movie's potential, not only in the marketing and how we build hype, but also in the box office potential to the Batman. And I know the Batman and Superman are not the same character, but I think that's really where this kind of would land in the ideal world for Superman. I know they want to do like a Barbie-esque viral campaign. It's hard to get that because a lot of that hype was just kind of naturally generated. And then, of course, the quality of the movie has to be fantastic. So if the first trailer does what the first trailer for Barbie did, then we can maybe have the Summer of Superman that DC is looking for. But outside of that, I do believe when people talk about the potential for this movie, you look at, and if you remember back to how positive the word of mouth was, just the absolute hype in the fandom for the Batman when it was about to come out, and every trailer was an absolute banger, and all the reveals were fantastic. People were getting it, even though we had the whole Robert Pattinson refused to work out, stories. Still, all the marketing was on point, and I think that really helped it get to like almost 800 million at the box office. I think Superman, with the first trailer, that's their first step into getting this movie to have a potentially a 700 million plus at the box office, which would be more than what Man of Steel made. So that would be the highest grossing Superman movie of all time, because Man of Steel currently has that title. And I think their first trailer coming out before Mufasa is a great first step if the timing works out. The Watcher saying the Doomsday cult worships the center. Wait, are you guys talking about something else in the chat now? Did I miss something?
Doomsday cult. What?
Huh. Oh, the Watcher put out like a whole paragraph, I think, talking about lanterns and creature commandos. Okay.
Gotcha.
We'll get into that later. But Hugo's saying 48 years since a proper Superman film. Come on, man. At least maybe. I mean, the Brendan Routh
not 48.
Was okay.
It would be 46.
It was okay.
Unless you're talking about the "It's a Bird, It's a Plane" Superman. It's Superman musical from 1975. Yeah. I don't think that's what you're talking about.
Well, here's the other thing that Miraculous said. He said it could drop online on December 15th and then play in front of Mufasa starting on the 20th. I think it's going to be the opposite. If you guys remember a few years ago when the second Avatar was coming out, they first released a trailer behind like a big movie. I forget which one it was, but it was also in like the holiday season, and then they put it up online. I think they're gonna give it that exclusive first in a movie theater behind another movie, and
Kind of
then
like
they'll
what
release it.
Universal did with Oppenheimer, how it was in front of Nope first, and then was released online after the fact, and it was that
Exactly.
live, and it was
Yeah.
and they also released that live show version where it was like they kept playing the trailer, and it was like the seconds and the minutes would tick by, like counting down to the movie, and I'm like, that was really cool. So
No,
they could do
I just
something like that.
remember. I mean, if you guys are old enough, you might remember that the Phantom Menace, like when that trailer dropped, first Star Wars anything in a couple of decades, people literally bought tickets to go see a movie trailer and then walk out. Like that.
Yeah,
That
it was
very
Wing
common.
Commander with
Yeah.
with ironically Mark Hamill and Freddie Prinze Jr.
Oh,
They
shit.
bought tickets to see Wing Commander, watched the trailer, and then fucking walked out.
Yeah. Yep. By the way, the Watcher saying that, well, his big comment that led to the Doomsday cult was, also, I'm 100% sure that the center is our big bad for the DCU saga. The way this Lantern show is sounding sounds like the Doomsday cult is if not the big bad of the series. I mean, yeah, it's possible. The pieces are there, but we'll see. When we get to it, we'll see. But hey, as far as the trailer for Superman goes, at least now we have a window. I mean, for all we know, this doesn't come true, and people go see Mufasa and they're like, "Where is my Superman trailer?" Like it could be the case. But I'm looking forward to hopefully getting the trailer when Mufasa comes out, because again, I think that the opportunity is almost perfect, and it makes all the sense in the world. So. Right now, John, let's kind of move over and talk about this other story, because James Gunn has continued to answer fan questions. And amongst the fan questions that he has answered, is of course one about Deathstroke. Now this story has been around for a couple of days. We didn't really address it yesterday, but I wanted to get into it today. So James Gunn was recently asked on Threads, as he often is. He was, being asked by Jazzy Y Ruff, or Jazzy Ruff. He or she said, James Gunn, I'm curious, do you have any ideas for how Deathstroke could potentially work in the DCU? Are there plans for him at all? And then James Gunn simply replies, yes, and yes. So, A, James Gunn has ideas for how Deathstroke could work in the DCU, and B, he has plans for him. So then, of course, one of the comments becomes, the story of, are we gonna get that Bane and Deathstroke movie? So my question to you is, John, is James Gunn referring to this? Was the story that we talked about, I believe, a month ago? Is it true or is James Gunn talking about something else? Maybe that was just like a rumor that ultimately doesn't, like, maybe Deathstroke is going to be in the universe, but it's not in a movie with Bane. Like, where do you think this is headed? What does James Gunn mean? Decipher the three words, yes and yes. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that's I don't think it's any credence to anything. I think it's just the fact that Deathstroke is a popular villain that a lot of people like. And the fact we've gotten a Teen Titans movie makes sense. Like, whether it's one of two things: either he's confirming retroactively the Bane and Deathstroke movie, or he's more slyly confirming that Deathstroke is the villain of Teen Titans, because I just feel like that makes the most sense. Like, Deathstroke is a Nightwing / Teen Titans villain, so it would make sense that he would be the villain for that movie if they do decide to do that. So yeah, I think that's what he's mainly talking about. But it is kind of funny how he's like, "What's the potential for Deathstroke in the DCU?" Yes.
And yes. Well, no, he says, do you have any ideas? And he's like, yes, I do. And then he's like, and then
it's just wait, hold on,
the
scroll
second
back
question,
because he's like, curious, do you have any, do you have ideas for, okay, I thought he worded it a different way. That was my bad. I thought it was like, I thought he said, how do you think Deathstroke could work in the DCU? And he's just like, yes. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense, James. But no, I just read it wrong like an idiot.
he is, again, James Gunn is doing his thing of he's answering the question and yet while being fairly specific and yet being completely vague, you know. And Ron is asking, what if the Bane and Deathstroke movie is a gay romance? I wouldn't mind that at all. I mean, we haven't really seen that before, but I would not mind seeing that. I think that would be fantastic if that's the way they go.
Although
That's the
Lenny
direction they go
thinks
in.
that the rumor
So
is a Secret Six movie, and I would be open to that too. That would be awesome.
I don't think that's by the way, hi Lenny and hi Tony. We got a couple of new people in just joining us, I hope, in the chat. And I think Lenny has mentioned Secret Six before. I don't know, like it's a little early, I feel like, to start doing a lot of team up movies. That was like the misstep of the DCEU. Like their second movie was literally Suicide Squad, and then the second movie was BVS, which became a team up film, and then the third movie was the Suicide Squad, and then from there it just felt like every other movie was like a big team up. I think they will get there, but I don't know if they've already announced The Authority. That's the big team up movie of like part 1 of chapter 1. I don't know if we need more, but Secret Six would be a good one. It would be a good one. We'll hopefully get there eventually, but I don't know, Lenny, if that's coming up like in the immediate future. Tony's like, I'm sure Ben Affleck's script is still out there, referencing probably the idea that Deathstroke was a big part of that movie. So, I mean, hey, we don't even have a Batman, and if they're still working on Batman the Brave and the Bold script. So, as far as the DCU goes, I don't know if Deathstroke. It looks like Deathstroke either will have that movie with Bane, or he will show up in a different project, which could be the Brave and the Bold. But Ben Affleck's movie did not include Damian Wayne, so that was a very different script. Let's see, Silhouetted Animator saying Bane and Deathstroke had ties to the League of Assassins in the Young Justice cartoon that James Gunn said he's taken inspiration from. Young Justice. Okay, League of Assassins. Do you think that still could be just a movie with Bane and Deathstroke, or do you think now we're going into like a different
League of
direction?
Assassins and then Secret Six, all that stuff. I mean, I think that could be something, but I this is an interesting theory I want to. So Frank Grillo is suggesting that Rick Flag takes over from Amanda Waller in regards to the future, which would certainly be an interesting tidbit. Maybe that sets something up for Waller. Maybe that sets something up for the future after Peacemaker season 2. That could be I think that's an interesting theory. In turn, because I mean, I like Viola Davis. She's a great actress, but getting kind of sick of Amanda Waller at this point. So
yeah, I don't know if you need her in like every other thing. Like I think making her the Nick Fury of the DCEU was already gonna be a stretch. I feel like they need to sort of expand their horizons a little bit so they don't tire out the character. Like I would love to have.
I mean, in another universe,
you know?
Frank Grillo could have easily played the like OG Nick Fury from the main continuity. So I think that could work in a way. Like if it's Rick Flag Sr. Giving him more of a role, that could be pretty awesome. And I think Frank Grillo could do it. He's talented enough. So to be like kind of that Nick Fury-esque role. I mean, Nick Fury, he is technically in the comics Nick Fury Jr., and then you have Rick Flag Sr. It works. It totally works, guys. Just it works. Totally works.
Fair enough. I mean, look, again, yes and yes doesn't tell you much. It's just enough information to kind of confirm that there's plans for Deathstroke. It doesn't say anything about when the character is going to come into the universe. For all we know, Deathstroke doesn't show up till like, I don't know, chapter 2 or 3. Or maybe the second Batman movie.
Like in 2100, when all of us are dead.
Exactly. The Watcher's saying there will be tons of teams in the DCU, and then he capitalizes tons for emphasis. I don't doubt that there will be. I mean, by now the MCU has had a ton of teams. All I'm saying is it's probably a misstep if they start introducing tons of teams everywhere in the first few years of the DCU. Because here's the thing. When you introduce one character, you keep track of one character. When you introduce a team, now you're keeping track of like however many people are in the team as well as the team itself. It's what I don't want to have. It's kind of the issue of like if you guys are wrestling fans, You know, like there've been wrestling companies like the WCW in the 90s and even like TNA in the early 2000s, and even WWE back in the Invasion era. It just seemed like there was no individual wrestlers. Everybody was either part of the NWO or some other team or like, you know, D Generation X. It became like a point where if you have so many stables, I just go back to the whole, you know, what was it? Why do I keep forgetting the name of the villain from the first Incredibles? It was
Syndrome.
Syndrome. I keep thinking Frozone, but I'm like, that was a good guy. Syndrome. Remember, he tells Mr. Incredible his evil plan, and he's like, then when everybody is special, then no one will be. And
When
like
everyone's super, nobody
when
will be.
everybody's super, then no
You
one will.
sly dog! You caught me monologuing.
So I do worry about that. I feel like if he end up with like a team in every corner of the universe on top of every other 7-Eleven looking out for crime, that's just filling it. I mean, I understand that this universe already will feel like it's lived in. There's a lot of characters. It just doesn't make sense though to immediately go with like, you know, okay, we're gonna get a Teen Titans movie, but if you really think about it, it's probably still 2-3 years away. We're gonna get a Justice League movie eventually. We're gonna get the Authority. That's still a few years away. There's gonna be some kind of a Justice Society / League in Superman, so we're already getting that next year. I think that's enough. And then you of course have Team Peacemaker and Peacemaker. They might cross over a few other things. So I don't know if you need to get a ton of other teams movies. Like I don't want another Suicide Squad. Then I don't want to get into like a Birds of Prey movie immediately after that. Like I don't want to have them make those same mistakes that they did in the DCEU. I think Marvel has done a good job of balancing this out, right? Like you don't not every other movies in Marvel is a team up movie. Of course, we're getting a Thunderbolts, but before that we get Captain America 4. After that we get Fantastic Four, which is a team up movie. Then we get a Doomsday. Okay, never mind. Right now Marvel's getting into the team up era, and which is fine. But you know they're also like 15 years into the MCU, so I think that's
Yeah.
it's not it's apples to oranges.
I
So
can kind of see what Lenny's coming from, how it's about the world building rather than like actual team ups. I can kind of see that.
I get that, I do, but here's the thing, Lenny. Like, you still have to paint the picture for the general audience. Like you and I, John, John, Lenny, you know, Miraculous, the Watcher, we can follow 20 different teams in every corner of the universe. That's not the problem. But we are not going to make them the money that they need to justify making these movies. They need the average audience. And I think where you start to lose people is when you all of a sudden, you know, have so many teams that it starts to make, wait, so they're like, wait, don't they have a Justice League? So then so what is that team? It's like those questions will be asked. And then to keep up the quality of, you know, effort. And then also, now you just are packing the universe with so many characters that it just becomes harder to keep track of. I think it's better if they started to introduce more of these teams in TV series and then sort of had them isolated in their bubbles within the universe. But I don't know if it's a good idea to have it be like every
Fair.
other movie is a big team up movie. So yeah,
Although
I would
Buster
love that
Barnes,
too.
he's like, I think a balance of teams and individual projects.
That exactly, Buster.
Because
I
I
agree
mean,
with
look
you
at
100%.
I mean, to be fair, it's ironic because at 5 out of the officially confirmed projects, only one of them is a team up movie. So, well, I mean, unless you count like Brave and the Bold, that's like about Bat Family, but that was, I don't know if that's really a team movie,
Yeah.
but you know how it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't believe I just did a rant on this channel. That's very rare for me. But yeah, Buster Barnes saying, but Dan, you need to keep everyone relevant. That I think plays into the whole idea of I'm like you can't have 5 different teams running around, right? Like there's a reason why Marvel has not done a Younger Avengers, a West Coast Avengers, the Avengers, and like whatever other East Coast, however many other Avengers teams there are out there in the comics. There's a reason why there's only one Avengers in the movies, and it's because they don't want to have that problem where all of a sudden they're like, how many Avengers are there? Like, you know, it's like there's only like one Avengers in whatever shape that takes. And the Watcher saying, I trust Gunn to make it work. He man-made a low IQ humanoid tree and alien raccoon work. He did. But you know what? If you guys remember, Guardians of the Galaxy was like the only team up movie in that phase outside of the Avengers movie that came out. And I feel like they were like the only team of superheroes going into even Infinity War, if I remember correctly. We haven't had the X-Men. There was no other team. It was just the Avengers, and then the Guardians joined in, and that was it. You know, so I think you're kind of making my point for me. Marvel really didn't do a ton of team up movies, and I think, you know, at the time it worked for them. Now, I mean, they're starting to expand, but they're also building up to Secret Wars, so it's a quantity game at this point. I think if all of a sudden we were building up to a Crisis on Infinite Earths, movie, then start introducing teams. Like, I don't care, man. Like, bring back Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck. Like, let's do it. Like, let's do a multiversal crossover. But I don't think DC is there yet. You got to start simple, and you got to then grow from there. That's all I'm saying. And then you guys are, saying the same thing mostly. It seems like, we're kind of two sides of the same coin. Like, it's about balance. It's about bringing the audience along with you for the ride. So no, I know that DCU is not the MCU, but I'm saying there's a reason why the MCU is successful, and some of those, the lessons that the MCU has provided us work across the board. I mean, you can't argue with like $30 billion worth of box office receipts over the course of 15, 20 years, right? Like, it it works, and the DCEU, it did not at the same time. Even the Fox, X-Men universe didn't work very well. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying we need to copy the MCU. DCU is its own thing, and that's exactly why the DCEU, will do well, is because it's not going to try to be a copy of the MCU or a ripoff or a parody of the MCU. But, it doesn't mean that everything the MCU is doing, there aren't some lessons in there that you can kind of take and learn from. I mean, and especially James Gunn. The dude worked in the MCU for a whole trilogy's worth of movies. So he knows what he's doing. And, so we trust James Gunn, which I think we can all agree on. Now, before I get into any more fights with the rest of you guys in the chat, let's change the topic to what is on the thumbnail. And it is the main topic of the show today, John. It's been in the news now. We talked about it yesterday, but we were still sort of treating it as a rumor. I still like to believe it is not really much more than that, because even when you look at a lot of the, the trades reporting it, none of them are saying, oh, it's a done deal. They're saying, look, no contracts have been signed. It looks like there's, the Luca and Daniel are circling, the project, which basically means they're interested. So for all we know, we can get a news article about this in a couple of weeks' time that says, oh, creative differences, it fell through, it's not happening. So I don't think we're anywhere close.
Or it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, this thing, it might happen, and then 10 years later, it's still it might happen, and then
remember when Margot Robbie was pitching 3 different projects with Harley Quinn, and
she wanted to do a Joker and Harley Quinn, she wanted to do Gotham City Sirens, she wanted to do fucking Birds of Prey, which unfortunately happened. It's like, damn, bitch, can you spell ego? Hello.
Well, so with that in mind, let's dive into it, shall we? So I picked out this article from Deadline, but this has been reported across all the big trades. You can see it in The Hollywood Reporter, you can see it in Variety, and basically they're all saying pretty much the same thing. Now, it was an exclusive from Deadline, and then I think the story kind of spread from there. So Daniel Craig, of course, the latest James Bond, who just ended his run a few years ago, he's been doing a bunch of other projects. Of course, he's still part of the Knives Out franchise, and he just did a movie called Queer, which is still upcoming. It has gone through the festival circuit, and alongside him on the festival circuit has been Luca Guadagnino, who it was his director, and it looks like the two of them seem to be interested in moving over to the world of the DC universe. It looks like it's going to be a DCU thing, not an Elseworlds thing, at least the way they're talking about it right now. But at the very least, it's going to be under the DC Studios banner. And Luca, I believe, on the festival circuit expressed interest in the idea of getting into the superhero world. And I don't remember if he said DC exactly, but that's where the story initially came from. And it seems like when he said that, there was maybe it sparked some conversations in the hallways of DC Studios and Warner Brothers, where they were like, oh, Luca wants to do a superhero movie? Okay. And Daniel Craig is interested? Great. What do you guys want to do? Maybe there were a few conversations, and it looks like right now they're circling the projects, they're eyeing it, whichever wording you want to use. I'll throw up the article from the Hollywood Reporter. Sir Daniel Craig is circling the DC Studios Sergeant Rock with director.
Like a goddamn shark.
Like a goddamn shark. Okay, we'll get into this other stuff later. And then here they say eyeing, post-queer team up in DC Studios Sergeant Rock. So when you look at it, and you go into a little bit of the details, I'm sure some of you guys have already read the article. I think, Antonio, you asked about it yesterday in the chat as well. So you probably read that they tell you in the article that they're still sort of in development, in the sense that no contracts have been signed. It says it right there, no deals have been inked between DC Studios, Craig and Guadagnino. But they did say according to Deadline, they hear that the Rock screenplay, which is by the Challengers and Queer scribe Justin Kuritzkes. So of course the same writer who worked with both Craig and Guadagnino on their movie Queer, and they say that script seems to be in good shape. That's what they're hearing. So we have a script. It looks like it's in good enough shape that maybe James Gunn will give it the green light, unlike the Brave and the Bold script. But the details are under wraps, so we have no idea what the story is going to be like. The character has been fairly obscure in the past. I don't imagine that most people even know who Sergeant Rock is. I know some of you guys watching do, but John, I want to kind of maybe start there before we even get into kind of analyzing the legitimacy of this. Who is Sergeant Rock, and what can you possibly bring to the DCU if this is even going to be like a DCU project and not an Elseworlds thing?
So essentially, Sergeant Rock is this character that was it was he was introduced post World War II. He was on the cusp of like 50s and 60s, like the Silver Age had been around for a while. They were kind of trying to like go in like all sorts of different directions with comics, since superheroes were like on the sillier side. Let's do something a little bit more serious. And so like a lot of Western comics and army comics, and Sergeant Rock was the one that kind of just stood out. He was a character that is, he was served as an infantry non-commissioned officer, and he is most famous with his company, which is called Easy Company. And he's also been part of the original Suicide Squad, which was back then like an army contingent who were just kind of sent in to do like army stuff. I think Rick Flag Sr. was a part of that group, and that's what the Silver Age Suicide Squad was until it was it John Osterman, I think, came in and redid everything and then became the Suicide Squad we all know and love. And he was also part of the Creature Commandos. And so he's pretty much just like a soldier. He's nothing really special about him. He's just a soldier, and it's kind of just a way of but he has dealt with like not so army threats. Like he's dealt with like, I know his most recent Elseworld story, I think in the comics, was like they did like him versus like zombies or something like that, stuff like that. But yeah, so sorry, John Ostrander, that's to the guy who launched the modern Suicide Squad. That was my bad. But yeah, so he's been part of a lot of stuff. Easy Company is the main thing. He was also, United States Army. So I think it would be really cool to have like a Sergeant Rock movie, but I would also like to have Easy Company in there, which are a lot of characters. So pick like maybe like half a dozen of those guys and throw them in there. And I think that would be a really interesting, like, again, showcasing what the DCU needs to do to to really get away from the idea of superhero fatigue. Like, see, look at these comics. It's an army story. It's a fucking World War II war movie. Even though it's an alternate universe at a time when maybe the JSA was going or running around and, doing their thing, we have this very human group of men headed by Sergeant Rock to, just do their jobs and, do that. So I think that would be a really, really interesting way of like just breaking it up. Like as I've said many times in many videos across the channel, is Superman Legacy what used to be known as Superman Legacy, Superman 2025, still making that mistake. Superman, which is different from the Authority, which is different from Brave and the Bold, which is different from Supergirl, which is different from Swamp Thing. And the same thing with TV shows. You have Creature Commandos, which is different from Lanterns, which is different from Paradise Lost, which is different from Booster Gold, which is different from Waller. So it's like you're having, yes, a good alternate history Gunn was talking about. So I think it would just be like, whether it is or isn't happening, I'm just saying in general, this would be a good way of like showcasing, like, hey, people who are not into this type of thing. Oh, I'm not really into superhero movies, but I mean, you know how many like fucking guys, like how many like fucking dads and like, you know, guys who are guys in this day and age, like it's a meme now with how much guys are obsessed with World War II. Like World War II or the Holy Roman Empire, one of the two. Like that's like you base your personality off of those two things.
I mean, AKA Gladiator 2 coming out this week.
Yeah. So I think there is definitely I think there's definitely something there, because you're getting all different, like as I said, Swamp Thing, you're getting horror people, you know, Supergirl, you would be getting like people into like cosmic stuff, but you're also getting the more female audience. Not saying that's, you know, there's like, oh, just because it has a female hero doesn't mean, I understand that, but you'll still get that representation that a lot of people crave with Supergirl as the main character. But then you also have, you know, Brave and the Bold, which is more of a familial, like action kind of movie. And then The Authority you could go a lot of different ways with that. Like you could go like dark comedy. You can go super hardcore, like 80s action. You could go a lot of different ways. And then Superman is like the hopeful character to like really bring in and like showcase that. So and then Lanterns, you're doing like a murder mystery, you know, Booster Gold would be like an action comedy. So you're doing all these different genres. It's like, fuck it, bring in the war movie. Bane and Deathstroke have a movie that's, you know, where you follow the villains. Like Dynamic Duo is like this fucking movie with like CGI puppetry, hand drawn, a million different ways of animating the movie, and it's like a coming of age story. So it's like, as long as you're hitting those strides, getting these voices heard, getting these visions showcased, then you're gonna really build a universe that feels different, but also doesn't feed into like the fatigue that a lot of people are feeling right now with the superhero genre, because you're doing so many different things.
Yeah.
This is the comic I was talking about versus
Sergeant Rock versus the Army. I mean, you guys have been talking about it in the chat actually. So, absolutely, I think there's a lot of different ways in which you can incorporate this, especially if you go from a, you know, like a period piece perspective, like do something that kind of fleshes out the alternate history of the DCU, which like the MCU tries to stick, like their history is largely very much the same as the real world, except a few deviations. I think the idea that James Gunn has been pushing is that the history of the DCU might be very different from the real world, and it will be much more fantastical, and this could be a project that can really help them flesh that out. Now, I did want to quickly go into Silhouetted Animators super chat. Thank you so much for your $5 super chat. We really, really appreciate it. Any of you guys, you know, we appreciate the support. And so he said Sergeant Rock as a pre-JSA World War II team, and maybe set up the JSA in that film, would be awesome too. So, I mean, that would be great. We had the JSA in a Black Adam movie, so we know that you don't need to have a JSA movie to have the JSA in a movie. So I wouldn't mind seeing, you know, that introduction happen, especially if it's pre-World War II. And you just talked about it, John. I mean, even if it is World War II, the JSA could be hanging around. So that would be great. And again, thank you to Silhouette Animator for the super chat. Lenny quickly had a comment that, hey, Dan is thinking too big. I feel that's where his criticism is coming from, talking about all the team up movies that I think I agree with you there.
I think Dan's just very excited for this universe, and he's just
I just don't want them to screw it up. You know, I don't want them to screw it up.
I mean, I think that's the main thing. Of course, we don't want to see James, my boy, screwing it up. So
now,
you know.
Hey, the watcher getting already excited about Daniel Craig, like freaking Daniel Craig, right? It's James Bond. In my opinion, the best James Bond there ever was. Or certainly he had some of the best Bond movies there ever have been. And to get an actor of his caliber, I mean, the other day you were like, can you imagine him doing a Southern accent? I'm like, you know, he does it in the Knives Out movies. I think he can.
Yeah, but that's like do it. Over the top.
I get that too.
Like on purpose, though.
Yeah. Yep, and then Jay Kelly referencing that exact comic that we were talking about earlier. So, yeah, I mean, hey, as far as things go, I think it was Jay, or I don't remember if it was Jay or somebody else in the chat. You guys were pointing out that the fact that none of these articles are really confirming it, anything regarding like Daniel Craig's actual involvement or Luca Guadagnino, it could be because they're still negotiating contracts, and that's perfectly okay. That could be the case. I'm just saying those negotiations could fall through, so it's not a
Right.
confirmed thing, right? So Ron is saying not Roger Moore, Dan. No, I didn't say Roger Moore. I think between Sean Connery and Daniel Craig, those are the two best Bonds. Those are my favorite Bonds.
Although Buster Barnes is
Um,
making fun of your accent, Dan. Like, that's rude, Buster. Come on now.
my
Because he's like,
accent.
who's Daniel Krieg? Because you
I
keep
I
saying like
didn't say.
Craig,
Did I say
but it's like
Krieg?
Craig. It's like
I've been saying Daniel Craig. Am I? Whatever. I'm talking a little
whatever. I don't
fast, so
know.
I might be skipping over his last name. Um, but that's not nice, Daniel. I don't like it. I don't like it when you bully me like that. But okay, I'm a sensitive man. Um, it's like Ron is saying that has to be a troll comment. Yeah, it
Oh, it
probably
is.
is.
No, I know it is. That's the
I
point.
know it is. Yeah, Roger Moore. Hey,
Okay,
look.
okay. Hang
Okay,
on,
look.
hang on, hang on,
There's
hang on, hang
people
on, hang
out
on.
there who love Roger Moore as
Roger
Bond.
Moore was good
So
for his time. Like, it's like a lot of people are like, well, I don't think we've gotten a bad Bond. Even George Lazenby was good for what he was given. So I'm just gonna say that. Like, all
I
of
think
them are
Timothy
good in their
Dalton
own
was
right.
underrated. I think his
Oh yeah,
Bond
Timothy
movies
Dalton it
were
was
very
said by
underrated.
many to be the most book accurate James Bond. So there
Yeah,
is that as well.
yeah. But hey,
License to Kill was great. I've
it
seen.
was.
I remember
It was.
watching that and On Her Majesty's Secret Service back to
Mhm.
back, and both are excellent for very different reasons. But
Yeah.
License to Kill was fucking awesome.
I mean, like, for me, again, I think Casino Royale, the one with Daniel Craig, is probably the best one. And speaking of Craig, of course, he is in negotiations. It looks like again, it could fall through. I did want to, before we move on from this topic, because we have a few other things to talk about. There's a history to bringing Sergeant Rock to the big screen that
Mm-hmm.
goes as far back as I believe like the 80s maybe, like because at one point, and they point this out in the article, so kudos to them for doing their research. Arnold Schwarzenegger was involved there was a point where it could have even predated, I believe, like the Superman movie. Like it might have been one of the early maybe not exactly the Superman movie, but certainly like a lot, the 1989 Batman. So you could have had Arnold Schwarzenegger play Sergeant Rock back in the day. Bruce Willis was attached at one point, John. There's of course,
Mm-hmm.
been no those are the two biggest names, but like what do you know about the history of bringing this character to life? Because despite the fact that it's not a very well-known character, it looks like we have almost had a movie with Sergeant Rock in the
Yeah, it
past,
was
like on
supposed to
several
be
occasions.
produced by Joel Silver, who was like
Yeah.
action extraordinaire for like, I mean, there was like a million different like screenwriters. I know John Milius was attached at one point. I think after Die Hard, when John McTiernan was still directing it, Steven D'Souza, who was a writer who was brought in after the fact, um, was was writing it. Brian Helgeland, who went on to do L.A. Confidential. David Peoples, who I believe, wrote one of the drafts for Blade Runner. All of them were gonna write the movie. I think when they wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger, they rewrote it that he was gonna be a German American and that he was like he wanted revenge on the
Agreed.
Nazis for killing his family. Um, so there was that, and then they were like gonna have John Cleese at one point in the movie, and it was gonna be a remake of like a Danny Kaye movie or something like that from like the 50s, and it was like a whole mess. But I do know like the whole huge fucking thing. Like Francis Lawrence was attached at one point. Guy Ritchie was attached at one point. This movie has been trying to get made since the 80s, and it was a whole fucking mess of everything. But like I think the closest we got was like late 80s, but it just never came to be. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger went on to do Total Recall. Bruce Willis went on to do all those terrible movies in the 90s. And then Yeah, so it never really went anywhere. It got like picked up for a couple seconds in like the 2000s, and then it died again. And then now we have, you know, Guadagnino.
Guadagnino, yes,
I don't know how to
Guadagnino.
pronounce the name, but yeah, him. Now we have him as like the leading guy. So I'm just a little like I don't want to say irksome, but like a little doubtful that like we've been trying to get this movie done since the 80s. We'll see, but like,
Yeah.
we'll see. But I hope so.
Yep. I by the way, Fiona, I do think that Craig has made the best Bond movies. It's such a, you know what? We should probably do a whole podcast on who's the best Bond. But as far as the history of the character, yes. I mean, you just gave us an incredibly insightful, look into what almost was several times throughout history. And Craig isn't appealing in anything, in my opinion. Oh, yeah, okay, well, that's an opinion. Like you stated. Quentin Tarantino said that at one point he was offered a Sergeant Rock movie that had a
All right,
magnificent script from
this dude has
Blade.
confirmed, like he was gonna do a James Bond movie, he was gonna do a fucking Luke Cage movie,
but it makes
he was
sense.
gonna do that. Like Quentin Tarantino,
he's
I think Quentin Tarantino's blowing fucking smoke at this point.
I'm like, I get it. Like, he probably has been offered a lot of movies, right? Remember he wanted to do a Star Trek movie? That was his most recent franchise that he flirted
I don't know.
with,
I just feel
and that
like
never
he's
happened.
just like, oh yeah, I was offered this, I was offered that. I just didn't want to do that shit. I didn't want to do that shit. Like I want to do Jackie Brown. I want to do Death Proof. Like why am I doing that? I want to do Kill Bill. I don't want to do this franchise shit. Get this shit out of here. I'm not doing this. I want to do my own movies. I want my creative control. I don't want to do one at studios. I don't want to deal with that shit. Like I feel like he's just kind of, he says he does all these things, but I don't know. I don't fully believe it. I think he always kind of is just blowing a lot of hot air. Like I love the man. I don't love the man. He's kind of an asshole, but like I love his movies and he makes great movies. I just think like it just so happens like every franchise under the sun has been offered. Like he's talked about like doing this. I'm like, oh, okay, let's,
The chat is just sorry. I'm laughing at laughing at your take and the chat. Buster Barnes saying, how many racial slurs would be in Tarantino's Sergeant Rock movie? I watch Hateful Eight and it's almost cringe.
Hateful Eight is actually my favorite Tarantino movie.
Right. I personally, to me, the favorite Tarantino movie is The Inglourious Basterds.
It's either that or Reservoir Dogs, one of the two. I don't know. I kind of flip flop between a lot of them.
Oh, Fiona wants to start the art argument. You know what, Fiona? Like, are movies really art? Or what about movie trailers? What, like a really artful movie trailer is still advertising, but does that make it still art? Because it's still, it's trying to convince you to go see the movie. I think we're gonna have this conversation on a podcast someday. But Silhouette Animator saying Tarantino's Sergeant Rock movie with a 2-minute scene of Bride of Frankenstein. Yeah, it would fit.
Played by Diane Kruger.
The Tarantino profile. Yes, I don't know. Well, like today in 2024, I don't know. I haven't seen her in anything recently. So who knows? Ron saying Django is his favorite. All of a sudden, we have moved on to talking about Quentin Tarantino. And Buster Barnes also think Django is the best. The Watcher saying Kill Bill and Pulp Fiction are his favorites. Yeah, I mean, look, he's one of those filmmakers who's got so many big hits.
Ooh, look at me. I have Pulp Fiction as my favorite, aren't I? So fucking amazing. All right, dude. Let's see. All right, okay. Ooh, what it was, Exorcist, your favorite horror movie? What is your favorite movie? Fucking Citizen Kane? All right, yeah, sure.
If you're not saying Kill Bill. Well, Lenny's saying Hateful Eight was the last decent Tarantino film.
I'd agree with that. I didn't care for Once Upon a Time.
Oh, by the way, Ray J is on my side. That is most definitely art. Thank you, Ray J. I do accept that. Actually, let me thank you in the chat, so it's documented for posterity.
Oh God, Fiona, it's not art. Don't you start.
Don't you start. And then, of course, Lenny and Fiona both love Kill Bill. fantastic movie. I thought it was. I mean, both the first and the second. I mean, there's been rumors. That's the other one. He's like, oh, am I gonna do a Kill Bill 3? Oh, like that's never gonna happen. It seems like. Um, so I mean, okay, great. Like the chat is just going wild. But here's the top 3 from Right Dude. I think he's for him for Tarantino movies. Oh, we got JB in the chat. Sorry, I am incredibly short-sighted today. So the Right Dude saying Pulp Fiction, Django Unchained, Reservoir Dogs. You know what? Reservoir Dogs never quite appealed to me as much as it does to a lot of people, for whatever reason. But yeah, JB wants
Real
to see
OGs will
Tarantino
remember
deal
my
with
best friend's
Vulcans.
birthday.
The logical conversations that might go on for 20 minutes. You know what? I would love a Tarantino Star Trek, but I think he gave up on it a couple of years ago. We got Angelica in
And
the
I don't
chat.
think he wants that to be his last movie. That was probably
Right. That's the other thing, right? Doesn't he only have like one more left before he's retired?
Like retires, and then that's it.
Angelica saying, I think the Sergeant Rock movie is a DC Elseworlds movie and not in the DCU. I think that's fair.
I think that could be either
possible.
or. I think it could be good. I think it could be interesting because I mean, to be fair, it does give them some sort of like leeway because then Guadagnino could do it whenever he wants rather than like do it in a way of like, oh, okay, you can only do it after these 5 movies that I announced are done. And he's like, well, fuck that. I'm not waiting that long. I got to do like all these other movies. So that gives them a creative space of like, okay, I can release it whenever rather than, although, I mean, to be fair, James Gunn did say he's not gonna greenlight anything until he gets a good script. And if they have a good script and this is actually true, then by all means do it. Then it doesn't matter what's been announced. It's just like, well, we're greenlighting it.
I mean,
so like
Rage also pointing out that I think we're gonna get Sergeant Rock like making a cameo in Creature Commandos. And I mean, look, that doesn't mean Daniel Craig will voice the character, and if he doesn't, that also doesn't mean that Daniel Craig can't still play the live action version. You can have an actor play do the voice for Sergeant Rock for a scene, and then when Daniel Craig signs on for the role, you better believe Daniel Craig is going to be the guy playing the role. So it's not like the two things are mutually exclusive. They don't have to be. Put up your socks and pull up your Crocs and kiss Sergeant Rock.
What?
I don't know. The Watcher's just going wild now. Let's see. There was one other comment I wanted to get into. Oh, Buster Barnes with the absolute golden one. He's saying my favorite Tarantino is Joker 2. Ouch. Jay Kelly asking a very legitimate question. Has Luca Guadagnino done a movie that suggests he can do a military type horror movie? That's a good question. Let's do a quick search on what movies he's actually done. Like, because I don't know like what his IMDb looks like. He's not the most well-known director, but I feel like he's done a few good ones.
I think he did Call Me by Your Name.
He did. Okay, so that's one. He did Challengers.
He did the Suspiria remake. He did. Yep. Well, he did Queer. He did Challengers. What else? I know and then he did like some weirder movies before Call Me by. I think Call Me by Your Name was like his first real like.
Yeah, which that got like Oscar nominated. Didn't it win an Oscar? Like that's when that's the movie that really elevated Timothée Chalamet into the conversation.
I think it won. It probably won like some technical awards if I remember correctly.
I don't think he's really done any big military movies. He tends to do like
but I mean like I feel like he's one of those guys that like does something so different.
Yes.
From like the last movie like he's done like I mean most of them are romance related but like I mean Challengers was I mean as me and my friends called it for like months Zendaya has a 3-way and then Queer is like about a guy discovering his sexuality Call Me by Your Name is borderline pedophilia but like it's a gay love story so it's a whole thing so so he does mainly romance stuff but he can like go into different I think he did like a movie called like something about the ocean I think that was one of like Wave I think he did like that kind of movie but yeah he's done mostly that but like I think he's the type of director he's like I I could do whatever I want. I want to like test the waters. I want to see what I can do, and kind of does like whatever he feels like. It's like that tests the sort of thing.
Right. And then as far as what he's also got on his slate, he just finished working on MGM Studios' After the Hunt, which stars Julia Roberts, Andrew Garfield, and Ayo Edebiri. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And then I think he signed on to do the reboot for American Psycho, but it looks like he might wait to do American Psycho until he does Sergeant Rock. So that's the other piece of news here.
Yeah.
And of course, Daniel Craig is tied up with Wake Up Dead Man, the Knives Out mystery, the third movie in the Knives Out franchise. So he's already got that running. But it was really at Venice when this story first began, because the two of them have been promoting Queer, and then now I think they both might have time on their schedule and they want to do this, which would be great. I mean, why not? And if it does well, you can always do more than one. So, oh, Ron saying that he can probably do the Deathstroke Bane movie as well, considering his his filmography. I think that could work. Absolutely. Maybe if he does a Sergeant Rock movie and he does like the whole military action, large scale storytelling well, then maybe he could also be a good director for The Authority. That's another movie that could fit
Maybe
into that
I can't really see him doing that, but like, maybe it could work.
Dude, Ron okay. The movie titles today are absolutely on point. Ron is like, "Call Me by Your Bane." That would be a perfect. That's like the SNL version of that movie, when they do like a skit about it. Wow, Fiona's really going in on Daniel Craig. What do you have
Lenny is
against
going
Daniel
in on
Craig?
everybody. Like
I
Tom
don't
Hanks
know.
needs to retire. Kidman should be in jail. Julia
Why?
Roberts needs to retire. Damn. All right.
What?
Blanchett
should be in jail?
I mean, to be fair, like 90% of Hollywood should be in prison at this point. But like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, we'll check in with Liz and see who else has been wrapped up into the Diddy scandal in recent days. She seems to know the latest. We'll have her back on early next week. Actually, she's on tomorrow, so ask her about that. Like, that would be fun to see.
I did want to say this because I know people in the chat were talking about it on what is considered art. I believe all movies are art. It just depends on what is good art and what is bad art, but that's in the eye of the beholder. I think everything is art. Even what Hollywood produces is art. Now, advertising,
it's commercial art
depends.
I
don't think so, because you know what it's like? I feel like a movie trailer is not art because you're taking what is already art and then just stitching it together and making something to just get you to see the art, I guess, like, unless it's it's the intention of like the advertising, because it's like you see a poster for like the MoMA, you're not, that's not in and of itself art, but it's an advertisement to go see art. I don't know if unless there's art on the poster, but I don't think that's the case there. So I know it's a whole discussion. I just wanted to ring my 2 cents in because I know the chat was fucking losing their minds over it.
Yeah.
But I believe all film is art. Okay. I'm just going to say that. Even there, it's just, there's good art and bad art. Like, I think Thor Love and Thunder is art. It's not good art. It's a steaming pile of dog shit. And it's still the worst movie I've ever seen. But at the end of the day, it's still art. It's just not good art.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
Yep. By the way, I really appreciate Man of Steel.
It's subjective, so that's why we could have a discussion on these things.
Well, I mean, movies are subjective too. By the way, Man of Steel Magnolia coming up with one of the best comments of the day. Sergeant Rock, the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. That would be perfect. That would be that's the perfect byline. I bet you some movie is gonna eventually use it, and I just want it to be like, maybe like if Marvel, not if DC has a Deadpool equivalent. I'm trying to think right now if there's an apples to apples comparison, but like maybe like in Lobo, like when they do like a Lobo solo movie, it should be like Lobo, the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change, and it would just be the best tongue in cheek reference ever. Okay, Lenny. Okay, all right. Sorry about that. That's it was just a suggestion. Oh, and Fiona's mad at you, John. She's like, John, do not start. It's
okay, I will start. I can. You know what I can get? I can get my fucking film degree off the goddamn shelf because I went to fucking school for this shit. So I think I can say whatever the fuck I want to say in regards to what is art and what isn't, because I learned what is art and what isn't. So, there you go. Just
look,
say
I'm just it's a very nuanced subject, but I do agree with you that movies are a form of art. There are, art, and they are subjective, much like any work of art is.
literally, Lenny.
You
I'm
know,
agreeing with you. Trailers at a Coca-Cola ad is not art, especially that fucking AI one. God knows that shit ain't art.
it looks so AI. Like there's no shot is more than a second and a half. It's almost like they're just all moving photos, which is so not cool.
That's
Um,
that's like a whole nother thing. But if we're talking in a subjective sense, I don't think trailers and advertisements, as the
oh
people in
man,
the aisles where Lenny is from would say. I know she's Scottish, not British, but that's beside the point. But I don't think advertisements are art. I don't believe that, but I'm just gonna say that. But I do believe all film is art, even
yeah.
Hollywood, and like it's just like what you consider good art and bad art, and what you're trying to say.
I mean, you can
So
also then make the argument that if there's a movie poster that's just really well made, like, is it art? Like there's very art. People put movie posters on their bedroom walls or just in other parts of
I
their
mean,
homes.
hello there.
Well, exactly, right there. Point taken. Let me put you a full screen.
I got
I'm just.
I got my Evil Dead poster. I got my Doctor Who poster. I got my that's kind of art. They got my Beatles poster. I have got my that one. Got Jules Verne. Got Action Comics up there. I can't swivel around. I have more posters over. It's mainly comic book posters. I do have my Thing poster over there. I think I have a Warriors poster. I have a It Chapter 2 poster. I got it for free. I have my Joker. I can actually get that one. Hang on. I have my Joker poster. My Joker Full of Adieu poster that I got in IMAX for free. Hey, there it is. And I'm keeping this. I'm gonna frame this. I'm gonna go to Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix. I'm like, can you sign this for me? Just like fully, just go.
I don't know
into the
why I'm getting blamed for this. I'm like, look, I am the one who's got an actual work of art in the background. Look at that, like right there.
Oh, I thought you were gonna talk about
So,
Fuck the Penguin. I'm like,
it's
that's
so
not
beautiful.
art.
No. Well, I mean, that is. Maybe it is a work of art. I'd like to think so. I spent 5 minutes on it in Microsoft Paint because I didn't want to even open up Photoshop because the penguin does not deserve that. But anyway, that painting is probably the best work of art that we have got on the show today. But with that in mind, Ron saying nice poster, trash movie. I sort of agree with that.
Yeah, what? Lenny's asking John and Dad, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know what we're
Meanwhile,
talking
Fiona's
about.
like, none of them are even framed. Stop this madness. She's typing in all caps. You really got her going.
Well, the thing
here.
is, I'm literally agreeing. I literally agree with Fiona. Ads are not art, but like, okay, go off, girl. I guess.
I mean, I think
now she's mad at you.
Me? What am I doing wrong in this? Oh wow. Okay, no, you
Dan,
can. You
take
see,
my art off your wall.
make me just come. Just why don't you come over and make me? Because I don't think you can force me to do that from distance. Like it's not gonna work, unless you can be like Professor X and then just like have it fall, or maybe you have the penguin on speed dial. So Lenny saying, so is a poster of a metamorphosis art or the actual Sal Dali painting? John and Dan, all I'm saying is some
Ron's
posters.
just like, I sense the sexual tension between who. That's the main thing here. Who are you talking about?
I don't know. Ray J saying even ads are art. They're just designed to persuade you to buy something. Okay, Ray J has a take on that too.
Fiona, I will break in and steal it back Catwoman style. I don't think anybody would mind seeing you in tight black latex. I definitely don't think Lenny would mind that, especially. So I'm just saying. I'm just saying what Lenny's thinking. That's all.
Oh man. Okay. All right. Tensions are rising, Drake. Okay, wow. And then now Lenny's like, "What the hell are you saying, John?" Okay, we're gonna change the topic. We're gonna move past this conversation because I think the show has officially gone off the rails.
It's off the rails, guys. Like my face hurts because I've been laughing so much. Yeah, honestly, I agree.
If enough money is
It's
sent
honestly
in,
a
then I
sexual
will
tension
cosplay for
between
the.
Lenny, Fiona, and Dan, and I'm just like the guy in the background filming everything. But like that's that's how it is for me. That's fine. I'm fourth wheeling it.
I'm snorting. Oh my god. And Buster, I think, has the perfect way for us to end this segment of the show. Let's bring it full circle. This is like a Luca Guadagnino movie. I think it is. At this point, it might as well.
Although you spelled it wrong, but that's fair because it's hard to spell.
Yeah. Well, with that said, of course, we know it's not official. Daniel Craig seems to be negotiating a contract, and it may or may not happen. But as of right now, it's looking likely that Daniel Craig will be Sergeant Rock, and Luca Guadagnino is going to be directing the two pairing up again, since their collaboration on Queer, which is still yet to come out, but it has been on the festival circuit, getting a lot of good reviews. So, and yeah, you know what, Fiona, we my people will reach out to your people. We'll talk about that. With that in mind, guys, let's move on to our next topic. I mentioned this briefly earlier, and John, I just wanted to get your opinion on this because it's gotten a lot of awards. You've probably been able to see it in a movie. You've seen it in a movie theater, and to a lot of people who did get a chance, hopefully you did. But if you haven't, you can now see Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, which is being referred to as now an HBO original from DC Studios. It's going to be on Max December 7th. It's got so many accolades, and I think it deserves all the accolades it's been getting. John,
Yes.
give us the pitch for why people should go see this documentary if they haven't already seen it. There's been so many chances to go see it, but I'm sure a lot of people, might have been busy with other stuff. But if now you can just watch it at
Busy,
home.
movies cost money, all that shit. But yeah, I think this is definitely the best one because it's on Max, and like if you already have Max, then it's good to watch because all the other ones, they were kind of expensive. They were like $20 a pop, so that's it's kind of a lot of money. But I just think it's an overall very inspirational story. I think it's inspirational. It showcases all sides of the man. It's not just like 2 hours of like, oh, look how amazing this guy is. There is some like, oh no, he was not quite the best guy in a lot of situations. So I think that's what makes this one like it's more even than you would think. Um it's more even than you would think it is, and I think that's what makes it so good. And then, it's a well-made documentary. Like I was intrigued. It's not just like one of those like, oh, it tugs at your heartstrings. It's just genuinely well made. It's interesting. It's intriguing. Yeah, I was pretty much, I had my box of tissues the whole time. I was bawling. Like it was very well done. But it's not just, it's like I know, because it's like it's one of those, it's not just a tearjerker. It's like it's a great movie. Like I'm not a
It
big,
is.
and it's coming from someone who's not huge into documentaries. Like I like a couple, but I don't love a lot of them. But it's a good crime movie. Have tissues on standby, but even then, outside of that, it's very well made and very interesting. It starts off like a little stilted, a bit, but nothing bad, and it's overall just very, very well made.
Yeah. I mean, and some of you guys in the chat who have already seen it, like the right dude and Buster, and you guys are just all saying exactly the same thing. You guys watched it multiple times, cried your eyes out. It's perfect. It's amazing. Ron even saying that it will be nominated for probably the best documentary at the Oscars, which I would love to see. I think that would be fantastic as well. So yeah, I mean, look, now it's out there on streaming. So if you have Max, if you don't have Max, there's multiple tiers. You can get yourself Max. Maybe get it for a month, go check out the movie, and then unsubscribe. Or if you already have it,
Well, and check out Creature
just
Commandos at
tune
the
in.
same time, since
Creature
it'll be out.
Commandos, of course, a perfect timing. And for all of us speculating we might get a Superman sneak peek from Creature Commandos, that's another reason to go get Max. So definitely do that and check out Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, starting on December 7th on Max. I'm certainly going to be looking forward to watching it on Max when it comes out. Now, the other thing, as you mentioned, we're going to be looking forward to watching on Max when it comes out is Peacemaker Season 2. We were talking about this the other day. I just kind of wanted to bring it up one more time because I think we have a few other photos. Because the other day we looked at this photo. It was just Big Belly Burger is going to be in Peacemaker Season 2. But, John, we also got a few other looks because it looks like they actually built out this whole storefront. And it's gonna be a significant part of the show. They even have some merchandise, man. Like, I don't know if this is going to be available for us to buy or if that was just there
I think
in
that's
person.
just like in house. I think it's just
It's
like either
I
just for the
need
crew.
it in the DC official account. I would love that. Like if they were actually, because like, can you imagine with how well like the Superman merchandise and the DC Studios logo has sold? Like this stuff would just fly off the shelves. I can't wait.
I'd love the shirt top left. That would be great. I like the red of the mascot. That's good. I like that a lot.
I would love to get my hands on. I think like the shirt with like the guy holding the burger, like that's the one I want. Maybe like a hat or maybe a tote bag. Which let us know in the comments which of these would you guys like to get your hands on. Is this gonna be in the DC merchandise store maybe? So I would love to get my hands on this. Hopefully this is just a
Yeah, I think
harbinger
that
of things to come.
Lenny, I agree. I think the merch is gonna be fucking crazy. It's gonna be insane. Like I already bought. Like I never buy merch for a movie or anything, but like I think I might have to be worried about my wallet in the near future. Because if this is like the type of merch we're getting, I already bought 2 shirts and a mug, and I also bought my Green Lantern rings. But that's how it is. And I just think this. Oh God, this is awesome. I really like this.
Yep. Lenny's like, Gunn is so detailed. I think going forward, the merch is going to be so wild. I agree with you there. I think they're gonna do a pretty good job with that, and that's already you can already see that based on like again the Superman logo merchandise, the DC Studios. They're doing a good job at making sure they're getting that moolah from the merchandise sales. And then Miraculous saying I'm bummed I missed seeing the Christopher Reeve story in a theater. Well, I mean, hey, if you have a big TV at home, you could just pop it on, turn off the lights, and just pump up the sound, and that could be your theatrical experience at home watching it on Max. And for all we know, this will probably end up back in a movie theater around Oscars time, especially if it does get nominated for the best Oscar. Now, of course, Peacemaker, we know they're almost done filming. I'm just glad that we still are getting these like inside, looks and sneak peeks. I'm excited. I want to see when the first trailer for this comes out. I bet you the first trailer for Peacemaker is likely not coming out until around summertime next year. Unless they do like a big Comic-Con sort of an event, and maybe that's where we showcase it, maybe on San Diego Comic-Con. So I'm excited to see when this merchandise in particular comes to a store near us, whether it's DC, was it DCshop.com, I believe, right? So
yeah. Like shop.dc.com or dcshop.com or shopdc.com. Like what are those? What are the combinations of those? I'm sure if you just type in DC Shop in Google, you'll find it.
You'll find it. Now, speaking of Peacemaker, there is one other thing that James Gunn recently mentioned during his Collider interview. He was asked again, like, what would Peacemaker season 2 subtitle be? Like, is it Peacemaker season 2? Is it Peacemaker Born Again? And he was like, I think Peacemaker season 2 asterisk no Justice League happened in Peacemaker season 1.
Yeah, that would be good.
I'm just like, I would love that. Like, if no Justice League happened, if that's, how he said, like, we're gonna address it or we're gonna deal with it, the whole Justice League appearance, despite the fact it's not canon. If that's the way to do it, and it's just part of the title for the whole season, I'm like, that's perfect. I wouldn't mind that at all. Put that on a poster. So, Lenny's like, Dan has a 70-inch TV and speakers. He's loaded. Yeah. I do have a big TV and a sound system, but I don't get to use it very often. Anyway, Lusario Trainer saying somebody bid $20,100 for 2 tickets to the Superman premiere after party on eBay. The premiere and the after party. I saw that because James Gunn posted it on his stories, and it was, I think the time is now done, but at the time earlier today when I saw it, he was like, there's only a few hours left and you guys can bid on this experience. You can go watch the premiere and then go to the after party. And I didn't bring it up because I think, now it's expired, so you can't really do it. But holy cow, like some, 5 digits, that's crazy. Just to go watch the movie in a movie theater. I mean, you can go watch it in another movie theater maybe a week later, but I mean, this way you will be in the same theater as James Gunn and all the other cast members, so that it's quite the experience. But yeah, good shout from Lusario. I did see that on James Gunn's Instagram stories earlier. So yeah, Watcher saying also off topic, but new Sonic the Hedgehog 3 trailers on Monday. You know what? We will have an Also Curious show early next week, and we'll see if that becomes one of the news topics. So good shout, Watcher. We will try to get into that. Lenny's like, you Americans have too much.
The Scottish muffin is not silly.
The Scottish muffin is not silly.
Yeah, got that sugar daddy money.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's one of the qualities that does wonders. All right, well, with that, John, we do have to wrap up on a rather more maybe I don't know if it's a more somber note, but oh wow, Lenny, yeah, because as soon as you turn out the light, I'm not gonna finish reading that comment.
I apologize to any blind people watching, but you can just see it on the screen. Boom, there you go. Hi, bye.
Usually this stuff happens when we are doing a show at like 10 o'clock at night, but I'm like, it's not even. Well, actually, you know what? It is 10:30 almost, so I guess it tracks. I guess that tracks. It's been a wild one. It's been a wild one. But John, let's wrap this up with another Penguin story. Come on, Fiona. All right. Colin Farrell reacts to basically his experience sitting in a makeup chair, talking about again how long it took for him to get ready. Because I've heard that sometimes his day started as early as like 2 or 3 a.m. so that he could be ready to go by the time like the crew was ready, on set. That's insane, like for him to be doing like 12, 16 hours on set. Speaking of which, fuck the Penguin. But I again just continue to be impressed because he's still gonna be playing this role in the next Batman movie and beyond. Like he's not gonna. It doesn't seem like he's gonna die in the Batman 2. What are your thoughts on this? Again, he was skeptical about it when the show was coming out in the beginning, but now he's all like, "Oh, you know what? It was still a great experience. I would love to come back to the role, do it again. I've already signed on for the Batman 2." What are your thoughts on again Colin Farrell? Just the amount of work that went into it. I mean, the other day we saw him talking from under the whole Penguin
Right.
garb and mask and makeup, and it just is
I'm not going to miss the
otherworldly.
fucking suit. I can't do an Irish bro. Although I am half Irish on my mom's side, so ironic. Funnily enough, I can't do an Irish unless it's like over exaggerated, but like I can't do like a subtle like Irish like an actual Irish accent. So whoopsies. I'm not going
Honest,
to
like
miss
Dan
the
loves
fucking
Colin
suit.
Farrell. I think he's a very talented actor.
Oh yeah.
He's like, I'm not with the fucking suit. He's gonna be happy to be back in the role when they start filming in 2029 or something. Whenever Matt Reeves does finish the script for the second movie. Oh, Busker's like, it's been a while since the Bulge Watch update. Has it? I don't know. Has it? We haven't seen any more inside looks at Superman, but I bet you when the trailer comes out, we're gonna do a check-in on the Bulge and see if there's anything to it.
There's the shot right there. Now I'll zoom into this. That
Okay, we don't need to see
right there.
bulge, but
I'm just like, I don't know. Do we need that? Like, because it's sort of like, what function does it serve other than to highlight the fact that Superman's got some padding there potentially to make this?
I mean,
movie a little.
I hate to break it to you, but every man on planet Earth has a dick and balls. Like, I don't know how you're supposed to hide that. Like, obviously, like in camera, they're gonna probably do some like cropping out. They're gonna like smooth it down a little bit so we don't see David Corn Sweat's schwanz in our fucking faces all the time. But I'm sorry, it's like a woman who has really big breasts, and it's like she's like, I can't put them anywhere. What do you want me to do? So it's like it makes sense. Like if it's like he has a big package. Like I don't know what to really say about that.
It's just classic. So yeah, Buster, we don't have any updates, but we can always go back and marvel at the Bulge Watch from when they were still filming the movie. I'm sure when the trailer comes out, everybody will be looking to see just how much of the bulge you can and cannot see in the movie.
Also, I'm not the one who put up the comment. I didn't put up your comment. I put up Lenny's comment, but I didn't put up your comment. That's all Dan's fault. So don't fucking come at me with that.
Yo, hey, we're not gonna share the beach pic from David Cornsweet. I think that's a little NSFW even for a 10:30.
I don't know.
At
You
night
were
show.
zooming in on his fucking junk during that goddamn clip.
Buster's like, it's 3 a.m. where I am. This chat is off the rails. Yeah, it definitely is off the rails. Superman's bulging and cat, but Grant is busting. Yep. Well, I mean, hey, speaking of the painting that I've got in the background, does it look like a Minecraft map? I don't think it does. I mean, the motif is a super bloom. It's really fantastic, by the way. You can go check out the holiday shop launching. Then Fiona's gonna have that up, and so she'll have more of those paintings. Go to FionaC.nyc. A nice plug there. But hey, I think that's all we got for today. Just one more time. Fuck the penguin. And with that in mind, I think we will call it a day or call it a night on the show, depending on where you are watching from around the world.
The art looks great, by the way. I think it looks very.
Thank you. It's wonderful. It's the best looking thing in this room, like honestly. And I've got more. So I'm gonna try to like fill up the walls. I've got like a circular one. I've got like smaller pieces. Oh, it does, Dan. It does. That's great. Okay. Oh, Man of Steel. Come on, man. Sergeant Rock, Battle of the Bulge. See, all we need now is what was the name of the character who had like this gun as God, but remember like it came up and I was like, oh, that actually exists. Do you remember who I'm talking about? There's an actual DC character.
Codpiece?
Yes, Codpiece. I want Codpiece to be in Creature Commandos too. That would be perfect. That would be the Battle of the Bulges then. So, oh, Ron is like, oh, Dan, you're the best looking thing in your room, bro. Thank you so
no
much.
Homo.
That's very. And thanks for another great episode. Says Man of Steel. All right, guys. So with that, we're gonna wrap up the show. We'll be back tomorrow. Actually, it will be John and it'll be Liz. Liz and John will be doing a live show. That's a very nice sentiment, Lenny, and I agree with you there 100%. And I have paid those same compliments many a times. So hit that like button as always if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you are new, and of course hit the notification bell so you know when we go live with another show. We're back tomorrow with another DCU Daily to wrap up the week. Of course, next week is Thanksgiving in the U.S., but
Dan,
of course
Dan's too flustered. He can't appear tomorrow. He's like, no, I'm sad. I can't do this.
Who said that? They're just throwing out blame. What?
Buster Barnes, it's like Dan's too flustered. He can't do this fucking show tomorrow.
You know what? I'll sleep on it. I think I'll be okay. But it's more of a scheduling thing. You know what? Actually, I might pop in tomorrow. We'll see, depending on the time.
Dan, sorry to cut you off. I know we're all like flustered and whatnot because of the chat. Don't we have comments? Didn't we have a couple comments?
You know what? You were right. We did. I think we got a little too flustered there.
Let's get a little bit too crazy. So we're not done quite yet.
Yes. I'll try. I'll just blush in the background while you talk about these comments. So here's the first one.
Jay Kells. Goddamn, bro, you got paragraphs on paragraphs, but I did read the whole thing, and I mean, it's an interesting thing. Like, the thing is, we're not going to read the whole comment, but obviously, I don't want to yuck your yum. If you like the show, that's fine. It's just like I'm the type of person when it comes to my TV shows, like if it doesn't impress me within like the first couple of episodes, then I don't watch the show. I know it's only a 9-episode miniseries, but like I don't want to spend almost 9 hours on a show if I don't have to. So that's what essentially it was for me. Like unless a show is like that, like usually I try to give it like 3 episodes, but sometimes when a show is that bad, I'm just like, I just can't. I watched like the first episode and I managed to get through the first episode. It just wasn't good. Like, And then I watched plenty of essays on the show. Macabre Storytelling had a really good. It's like almost 2 hours long, but it's a really good essay on why like the show just didn't really work. And I kind of agree with that. I understand I didn't watch it. I know like I can't technically judge the show. I'm sure it's actually amazing, but from what I watch, from what little I watch, I can't. I didn't like it. Maybe I'll go back and rewatch it in honor of Lanterns and whatnot. But I just couldn't get into it.
I mean, look, there's a lot of people that watch the first episode of a TV show then just turn away because it's not their cup of tea. Like it happens. It's totally okay. But at the same time, I mean, hey, look, he's not wrong. The show did win, Emmys, got nominated for a lot of them, and it was well received for the most part. But also, Jay's saying that he loved the Zack Snyder version of it and his take on it, which seemed much more comic accurate. And I kind of land on the same level. I think like both are great in their own ways. One is very different from the other, and they don't try to hide it necessarily. Like they always kind of pitch that Watchmen TV series as like a very like an alternate take on the characters. It wasn't meant to be a comic accurate take, and I think for what it was, it did good. So, but yeah, I mean, hey, look, we got 2 other comments, so let's get into comment number 2. Of course, again, continuing to fight for justice here. That's justice for Wick. # please do use that online. Where do you guys rank Penguin compared to other comic book shows? Asked Nelson. Hello, Nelson. We've known each other from way back in the day, and I appreciate you tuning into the show and asking us these questions. So, John, where do you rank the Penguin? I personally think the Penguin, is probably the best comic book TV show that's ever been done. Like honestly, I think it's even higher for me than Miss Marvel, WandaVision, and even better than Peacemaker season 1. I think it's better than all the CW shows that Warner Brothers and DC have done. Where do you think the Penguin is in that ranking? Is it the top?
I think
Is
it's
it
up
somewhere
there.
near
I
the
would
top?
say it's top 10 from what I've seen. It's not as good as Daredevil and it's not as good as Legion. But I would say it's probably up there. I would have to go back. I would say The Gifted is probably up there as well. I thought that was a really good show, even though it got canceled after 2 seasons. But I would have to look into like what shows I watched to completion, because there was a lot of shows I never like fully like The Flash. I gave up, like all the Arrowverse shows I gave up on, with the exception of Superman and Lois. Superman and Lois is definitely up there. That's definitely top 5 at least. But I would have to go through like see which ones, does only live action count, does animated count, because then that's a whole nother thing. But I will say, outside of like DC animated shows, there has been a lot of great like DC.
I mean, there's been
live action shows.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a ton of them from the CW, but as far as quality goes, I think the Penguin is probably the best. To me, it's number 1. But still, justice for Wick. I need justice for Wick. Victor Aguilar did not deserve the fate that he was imbued at the end of that show. Other than that, I mean, even with that, it was a great show.
That makes sense, Jake Hills. That makes sense.
So this is the last comment of the day. It's coming from Jay Kells again. Jay Kells talking about the Terrifics, basically being that unknown project, that unannounced project that James Gunn has been talking about after Lanterns. What do you think, John? Do you think we're gonna get a Terrifics movie?
That would make sense. I feel like whatever they call it, maybe the Terrifics, maybe not like something relating to Justice League International, not actually Justice League International, because obviously they're not gonna like do a Justice League movie right now, because I think they want to, give it space and give it time to breathe, not just like immediately do Justice League. So, I think that's I think Terrifics makes a lot of sense, because I mean you have 2 parts of a 4-part team, and then what they might do is, honestly, the Terrifics. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, it might just be the Terrifics, because when you think about it, you have Mr. Terrific, obviously, boom, right there, Eddie Gathegi on the screen. There you go. But then on top of that, you do have Metamorpho, who was part of the Terrifics in the comics, and then the 2 other characters that were in the comics were Phantom Girl, which is a Legion of Superheroes character that got like sent back in time. It was like a whole thing. So Thank you. Perfect timing there, Dan, on Buster's comment. But I don't think so. I think what they're going to do is, I know that they've been teasing Justice League International. I know James Gunn is a fan of it. I think we're just going to get the Terrifics, but instead of Phantom Girl, we're going to get Hawk Girl. And then instead of Plastic Man, we're going to get Guy Gardner. Because Guy Gardner and Plastic Man are kind of similar. They're more jokey kind of heroes. They don't take a lot of things seriously. They kind of like their powers rely on limitless imagination and creativity. With Guy Gardner, it's the ring. For Plastic Man, it's his elastic body. And then Phantom Girl and Hawk Girl don't really have a ton of similarities, just that they have girl in their name and both can fly. But I just think like it's interesting how they just have a 4-person team. Half of that team is part of the Terrifics, and I think instead of introducing something like the Legion of Superheroes so quickly, then just have Hawk Girl, and then maybe she quits and goes to the I don't know. Maybe she goes to the Authority. I don't know, because there's the whole thing of her and Swift being very similar characters. And then Guy Gardner, you could have like maybe they're the initial Terrifics group, and then they get a movie, and then then maybe Hawk Girl and Guy Gardner go off to do their own things. Like he goes to the Corps, and then she goes off to do the Authority, and then they get the two actual. I mean, because they have been teasing Plastic Man for a while, so I think that would make sense. But and then Phantom Girl is kind of weird. They might like switch her out with a more well-known character with a similar power set. But yeah, I think Terrifics makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, and Plastic Man, like I think who said it in the comments? Let's see. Buster Barnes saying Plastic Man could get his own movie, and the Watcher also saying that he agrees with him essentially, that it would be nice to have like somebody like a Booster Gold TV show introduce Plastic Man, or maybe even the other way around. Like Booster Gold's first appearance could be in Plastic Man, and then because that character James Gunn loves, and he's obviously teased us about that. That could be one of the unannounced projects that are in development. I also think that if there were the Terrifics, and if that was the next movie after the Lantern show, then I think that could be the next thing James Gunn directs as well. Because I think that would be pretty much right in line with what he's doing with Superman. So, and even like, to a certain degree, what he's doing with Peacemaker. So to that end, yeah, I think it would make sense. Great shout from Jay. And with that, we, this time for reals, we're gonna bring the show to a close. And thanks so much everybody for tuning in today. I think it's just great and to have you guys in the chat live. Buster saying if the rumor is true, it's Darren Aronofsky's Plastic Man. That will be crazy.
Oh God, I fucking hope not. That would be so terrible.
We've talked about this before, I think on the channel, but I'm sure we will, get back to it once we get more news on the subject. But with that said, guys, of course, as always, thanks for joining us today. I did want to quickly shout out again Silhouetted Animator for a super chat. Thank you so much for sending that to us about the Sergeant Rock speculation and what that character is going to look like, and maybe how they will introduce the JSA through that movie. So of course, as always, thanks for tuning in. Hit that like button on your way out, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. And if you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. And then with that said, yes, of course, it just feels like all of us here, we're just one big family.
Your brother never told you never threaten a man's family?
Family.
Exactly. And on that note, it's time to bring the show to a close. I've said that like 4 times now. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. It'll be Liz and John, and maybe I'll drop in and surprise you guys, and maybe I won't be as flustered. But until then, go out there, watch something DC related, then come back and talk to us about it. We'll be here tomorrow to talk to you about it and any other news that breaks, and maybe we'll do some fan casting. Who knows? If you have any ideas, drop them in the comments below, and we'll see you tomorrow on another episode of DCU Daily.